Hello, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are. It is time for this week's Red and Blue Review with me, your host this week, Ian Lyons. And as you can see, the co-presenters are all sitting there ready for you. We've got Jel. Hello, Jel. How's it going, mate?
Evening. Yeah, not too shabby. A bit tired, but yeah, looking forward to tonight.
Good stuff. And welcome back, Mr. Noble. How are you?
Yeah, well, thank you, Ian. Good to be here. Thank you.
And our New Zealand correspondent, minus part of his fingers, Tim. How are you doing, mate?
Good thing, Mr. Noble, Mr. Lyons, even, and happy birthday for last week.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, by the way, can I just say something? I put on the Red and Blue Review Twitter page, happy birthday to you. I hope you saw that, Mr. Lyons. But when I tagged you on Twitter, your Twitter pic, it looks like you're 21 years of age. What are you doing?
That's because that's the last time I went on Twitter. I haven't updated it since then. Yeah,
Shocking.
I said that. Well, thank you for the sentiments anyway. It's very kind of you.
Cheers.
I think if nothing else, it's following Palace that ages you more than the actual years. Right.
I'm 32.
Well, sorry.
I'm 32.
Oh yeah. Well, you're looking good on it. Right, so we got plenty to talk about this week. Obviously, there was some news that emerged partway through the week regarding investment, and then obviously yesterday's game as well. So, if you've got any comments, any questions, as Nick always says, put them in, and then we'll pick up on them. And also, if you wouldn't mind liking, sharing this video, it really helps us grow the channel. That's for certain. And if you don't get a chance to watch us live, you can also always do so on the recordings on our YouTube channel. Okay, gents. So I guess the first place to start, the best place to start, is the news that emerged midweek, I think it was, with a new investor. Lucy, you've got the overlay for that, haven't you? So the investor we've got is a guy by the name of John Texton, isn't it? John Textor. That's exactly right. And I know that it came up on Twitter, didn't it? There was a bit of a Twitter conversation a few weeks back regarding him and whether he was interested. But as you can see on the screen, it's been announced he's pumped in 87.5 million, which equates to an 18% stake in the club, and which values us at 486 million pounds. I'm not sure how accurate or how we feel about that valuation. Jel, what are your thoughts on the investment coming in?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure how wisely the money's being spent and what it's being spent on. So at the moment, my judgment is reserved. I'd like to know who else has got percentages in the club and what percentages, because it's sort of been clouded and a little bit of mystery. But I mean, is he an equal share, 18% each? Because we're still nowhere near 100%. I don't know who's got what. But yeah, I mean, listen, any investment is good. I would have preferred it to have been the people at the club to show more willing. In saying that, I don't know whether he's put that money in and they've also put money in. It's interesting times. We moved from 4 to a 3 and unknown, and now we're back to a 4. The 18% that we all know about. I don't know, is Browett still, Steve Browett still there? Is Jeremy Hosking still there? Is Martin Long still there? If they are, in what capacity? And if they are, in what percentage? I just like a little bit more clarity. And then also, have they bought out the mini conglomerate that had the unknown percentage in America? That where it was registered in a low tax-free state of Delaware, I think, a few years back. It's just a little bit more clarity. Only as a fan, just like to know where we are. I
know. Sorry, Joe. Sorry, I thought you'd stop then. Tim, when the news broke down New Zealand, what did you think?
I thought something must have been up because of the amount of activity in the transfer window, and I'm thinking, where's this money coming from? So I was a bit expecting something. I think it's good. I think, like Jel says, a little bit more information would be nice. I think Laurie put in a comment that any investment is worthwhile, and to a certain extent, I agree. But I also think there have been plenty of examples over the years of bad investment or investment that it takes more than money. But hey, look at the transfer window we've had. I mean, if that's because of that, then great news.
Yeah, I mean, Ian, based on, following on from what Tim's just touched on, clearly there's been some funds being put into the club, whether it had been via this individual or whether it was the others that apparently have also been putting money in as well. It was clear that there's an intent there to make some money available. What are your thoughts on the new investment, and how much of it would you envisage seeing still being available for players?
Yeah, first of all, I'd say I welcome the investment. I think it's great. We'd never heard of this guy before last week, but having said that, if someone's prepared to put 87 or 90 million pounds into Crystal Palace Football Club, and it's going to make a difference to us, and it can mean that we can bid for players and strengthen the squad, because we haven't spent a lot of money in recent years compared to other Premier League clubs. We've been the poor relation in that respect, and we've struggled with it. Now we've let a lot of these the longer serving players' contracts expire, so we get nothing back for their sales. And as Tim said, we've been active in this market, in this window, which has been really, everyone's welcomed that. So, I'm pleased that the guy's on board. I think just coming back to social media again, coming back to Twitter, John Textor tweeted yesterday. We're following him straight away, and he tweeted a video of the Palace fans singing in full voice, and he just said, "Not for lack of support, great to see." So whether that's him personally, whether he's got media people doing it, who knows? But nevertheless, I still think it's encouraging that someone like that is engaging with the fans on social media straight away, and I welcome that. So, really pleased. As for how much more we're going to do in this window, I still think we're a couple of players away. I think Patrick Vieira referred to that in his post-match presser yesterday. We've still got a bit more business to do, so I'm sure we'll talk about that and where and when we need to strengthen a bit later in the show.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, he was at Stamford Bridge yesterday, and he's staying, and he's going to be there at Brentford as well. And that because he's been answering tweets saying that people are offering to buy him drinks and all that sort of stuff, as you would get on Twitter. But it's interesting, with regards to Jel was saying about not having clarity as to what the investment is going to entail. Jel, do you think it was wise for them to announce the investment whilst we're still in a transfer window and still looking to buy players?
I don't know. I mean, you only have to turn around and say that we've bought a new director in, a new owner, and everyone's going to know that we've got money. Yeah, as been mentioned in the comments, we're saving I think 5 players or 6 players that we got rid of was 25 million quid in wages. 25 million pounds. So, even if we buy cheap, we can still pay reason. We can buy championship players. It's basically the equivalent of buying 2 decent championship players, I think. With the fees and their wages. I mean, that's probably what it'll add up to if we're paying 5 to 8 million pound for a player and then paying him 50 grand a week. So, it's the same money. We can bring in 2 for basically free. So we're not really out of the woods when it comes to money, which is why I'm saying I'd like to see how much, all of a sudden our £5 million academy is now £20 million in the papers and in social media. And I was like, well, hang on. Well, we get more investment. And all of a sudden, it's gone up 75%. I don't think so. I always thought it was 5 million that was earmarked for that. But whatever. I don't know, but like I said, just a bit of clarity. But I'm pleased he's on board. It shows willing that someone's prepared to put their money where their mouth is, and I just hope we don't fall into the same mistake. This is about building, either for in the long run. No matter what happens this season, it will be for the better. It will absolutely be for the better. Whatever happens.
Yeah, Tim. I mean, I think there's definitely a sea change. We're all seeing it. We've touched upon it last week, didn't we? In the pre-season show about this. This feels like this is a change in momentum, and we'll cover about Vieira and the time that he may well need in order to impart his thoughts and ideas on people. But the club has seemingly got a definitive approach now. And as a result, do you think that we may see more investors coming in over a period of time?
Who knows? It'd be nice, wouldn't it? I think if people have got the right intention and they want to pump money into the club for the right reasons, then great. But I don't think we can answer that, Ian, can we? I can't anyway. I'm not qualified to.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair enough.
People are not going to throw loads of money at the club. Sorry, people are not going to throw loads of money at the club without some sort of, without taking back. That's been plain to see. Anyone that's ever put any money in that club has had their money back and some. So I can't see, they're not all of a sudden going to be people coming into our club going, here's $115 million. Don't worry about it. They're not going to do that. They're going to want significant, returns on their investment. So the only way that's ever going to happen is by us finishing further up in the league to earn more money. What are we at now? How much prize money did we get at the end for finishing where we did last season?
It's surprisingly not
150 million quid.
It's surprisingly not a lot of difference if you finish 17th to 5th or 6th. It's not a huge amount of difference. It's about 30 or 40 million or something. It's not massive.
Which is what, 7 championship players and their wages?
Well, I don't know. I haven't done the maths, but yeah, I think you're right. Of course, anyone that's going to invest money in the club is going to want some kind of return, unless there's some kind of super fan. Unless Jel, you won the Euro lottery, 100 million or whatever they pay out, and you said I've got to put 50 million of it into Crystal Palace Football Club. That's when you might get someone throwing money at the club and not wanting a return.
If I win the Euro millions, you'll never hear from me again.
I mean, it's definitely an interesting scenario, because it was alleged that he was trying to buy 25% of Benfica a few weeks back. He had been initially talking to the club about buying the entire club. So whether or not he's in it for the long term, I don't know. But obviously, you're not going to put 87.5 million in it if you're not going to be in there for some sort of mid to long term period. Even though, as I agree with you, Joe, he's going to look for a return on investment. But it also makes you wonder whether he undervalued us as a club and thought he could get us for a lot less. But I guess we'll see how things pan out. But nevertheless, I think we're all agreed that it's welcome news anyway, at the right time, at the time that we need it. Right, I guess we better then move on to yesterday's game. Okay. Now, obviously, first game of the season off the back of a reasonable pre-season campaign, and without Conor Gallagher, obviously because he'll be facing Chelsea. Vieira's starting lineup, I think you got that, haven't you, Luce? So if we can have a quick look at that, the starting lineup for Chelsea. There you go. Right, so it's VC in goal, which you'd have expected. Ward and Mitchell as the fullbacks, Gay and Chiarte centre back. Riederveld, Jimmy Mack, interestingly, as captain. We were discussing that last week, weren't we? And Schlapp. And then Ayew, Zaha and Mateta starting up front. Tim, what did you think when you saw that lineup initially?
Disappointed that Coyote was still in defence. He's got to go to midfield. Disappointed that Ayew was starting. And Mateta, I'm still not sure on, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that obviously Anderson, having been at the club for a couple of weeks, which clearly isn't fit enough. So Kiarte, I think, is a fair shout. Benteke, I'm inclined to agree with you. I mean, we were talking about Mateta last week. What did you think of the lineup, Ian?
Yeah, similar to Tim. I didn't question Coyote because I knew that Anderson hadn't been at the club very long, played some football in the Euros, came back late. So that's the reason he wasn't starting, I don't think. But I was very disappointed to see Mateta start. I watched him in pre-season. I've been quite critical of him in pre-season. I just don't think he's good enough. I really don't. Benteke came off the bench against Watford, scored a header. I guarantee you Mateta doesn't score that goal. I just don't. I think we've got another Sorloth, another Bamford in a red and blue shirt. That's what he feels like when I watch Mateta. He's living off that Brighton goal for me, and I just don't think he's up to it at Premier League level. So, and nothing I saw yesterday convinced me otherwise, to be fair. I think, again, the reason why Benteke was left out was because he went away with Belgium in the Euros. He didn't play much football, but he went away with them and he's had time out and he hasn't been back long. But I think he's got to start next week. He's so much better than Mateta.
I certainly think it's going to be interesting. What were your thoughts about the lineup when you saw it, Joe?
Let me just quickly go to the point of how many games were in the Euros. How many games? Was it 6?
Half a dozen. Yeah, and he didn't. Yeah.
So Benteke's played 6 extra games in.
No, he hasn't played though. He didn't play for Belgium. He never played. He came off the bench a couple of times.
So he didn't need to be rested. He don't need to be rested for Jordan Ayew, does he?
I agree. I agree.
He's injured, unless he's injured.
Yeah. And a good example is Richarlison started for Everton. Sorry, can I just make the point? Richarlison started yesterday. Can I just come in and say this point, guys? Sorry. Richarlison started for Everton yesterday. He played in the Copa America and he played in the bloody Olympics as well. And the final was only last week. And he still played yesterday. I don't get it. Well, we've got to rest these players. There you go.
Well, exactly. Yeah, that literally is down to attitude, isn't it? That's down to attitude and aptitude. That's like, I want to play football. I want to play for my country. I want to play for my club, and I want to try and win an Olympic medal. If you really want to do that, you can do it. It's just, I don't get it. The professional athletes, they get paid fortunes. And anyway, so yeah, the back four didn't surprise me. The midfield, I just think playing two defensive centre mids next to each other. When I think we have, I think Riedewald has to sit in front of that. If we're going to play two, I'd rather have one defensive midfielder playing in front of another, but I'd rather have Riedewald put the screen in the back four or a back three. It doesn't really matter to me. To see it set up 4-3-3, I think that was always going to make us thinner rather than pack the middle out and putting too much pressure on the front to come back. I don't know. It was just, for me, 4-3-3 away at Chelsea is almost a dream. Something we've been screaming for. But they're European championships, they're super duper cup champions, and whatever else they keep winning. And I'm like, maybe 4-3-3 wasn't the wisest start. But yeah, I can see Mateta's getting a bit of skin of comments. So I mean, for me, I don't think he's living off that Brighton goal, but I think just show a bit of willing in him. I would give Mateta a chance over Ayew almost every day. He loses the ball so much for me, Ayew. But
we'll come on to IU in a minute because we've got a slide on IU. But I agree. I probably disagree with Ian about Mateta. I disagree with a lot. I said on the show last week, I think he needs a chance. I think the problem yesterday was he wasn't getting the service. And part of that is based on what we're going to discuss about IU, but also obviously, as you've alluded to, Jel, the formation. Now, Tim, the 4-3-3. What sort of pressure did that put on the young shoulders of Mitchell and the older shoulders of Ward? And how do you think they dealt with that early doors?
It's interesting you say that because I forget who was in the chat. Was it Laurie? I can't remember. Someone asked a question. Do you still think Ward is a Premiership defender? Now, personally, I thought Ward had a good game and Mitchell. But what was interesting is one of the commentators when I was watching it over here was saying you could see Ward screaming at IU to come and help him out. I know we're going to IU later, but this sums IU up. Him and Mateta were a fish out of water. They didn't have a clue what to do. So I think Ward and Mitchell actually did really well, considering what they were playing against and the lack of support, especially Ward was getting. I thought they did as well as they could have done, to be fair.
Ian, Jimmy Mack, what were your thoughts on his performance, certainly as being captain for the day? Do you think he deserves to keep the captaincy armband?
I don't see him as captain. I would have given the armband to Wilf. It was no contest for me. Wilf's captained the side before. I think with Wilf, it would almost make him more responsible and stop these tantrums that sometimes we see with Wilf. I've got no big axe to grind with Jimmy Mack getting the armband yesterday. I don't think he played particularly well for him, box to box. He lost the ball in midfield an awful lot to the likes of Jorginho. And others yesterday. Chelsea, listen, they were just better than us in every single department yesterday. If you asked me who Palace's best player was yesterday, I couldn't really tell you because nobody played well particularly. And down the flanks, certainly Alonso and I can't even say the guy's name, the right back. That's the one. They had so much room, and I thought it was one of Mitchell's poorer games, Tim. Sorry, I don't think he played particularly well. He was exposed too much, whether that's his fault or other players around him. I know it was Gay's first game alongside him in the Premier League, but I thought we were exposed all over the park yesterday. Second best throughout. I tweeted at half time we were lucky to come second in the first half, and we were lucky to get nil by full time. We never threatened Chelsea properly. And when they went 3-0 up, do you know what? They just took the foot off the gas, and it was like a training game for them. I think we just got to draw a line. Thank goodness it's Chelsea. They're going to beat most teams that visit the Bridge. Let's be clear about that. I'm just glad it's over. We can move on to next week. But I thought we were poor all round.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that we would all agree on is, and probably most of the people watching as well, is that this needs to be put into context. The team that we were playing were just, are the Champions League winners. They won the Super Cup. They still had Kante missing and Ziyech and Lukaku. God knows what he would have done to us. And we lost 3-0. We only lost 3-0 with a team, with a young team moving in a different direction, being taught the complete opposite of what they've had drummed into them for the last 4 seasons. And losing 3-0. When we played them last season, they stuffed 4 goals past us in each game.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure people out there going, Lionsy, he's got his half glass full. Well, I have, because, we need to put things into context from time to time. But touching on IU, Luce, we've got a slide for IU. And I think this is where, with Vieira's new style of football, it's all about being braver on the ball, being braver on the pass. Whereas Hodgson's was all about just, lines of 4 and then just hustling everything down. If you look at this graphic is a great example. Now, IU on the starting lineup was one of the front 3. But as you can see that pitch, we're attacking to the right. Most of his touches and most of his involvement were in the defensive half. So, and I've also highlighted there that he's lost the ball 16 times. So people are complaining about Mateta, but when you're the part, someone that's supposed to be there to support you is losing the ball and he's actually 30 yards further back defending, it's always going to make things difficult. Now, Jel, you touched upon it earlier. Do you think this is an issue that Ayew needs to resolve, or do you think it's something that Vieira needs to drum into him, stay further up the pitch?
My issue with Jordan Ayew has always been that when he gets the ball, it's all about him. He's not a team player 99% of the time, which is why he loses the ball. Tries to dribble, he thinks he's better than he is. I think you're talking about players living off games. He's living off the goal against West Ham from whenever 3 seasons ago, and he's living off the cross for Mateta's goal against Brighton. He hasn't done enough in the last 2 or 3 years. He really hasn't. For me, I just don't think he can spin, get the ball. If he takes a second just to look up and then pass it, he doesn't. He wants to go again, then he wants to go again, then the ball gets a little bit out of control, then he's stretching, then he loses it. And all you end up doing is just shouting. I just shouting all the time about if he'd have passed it 10 seconds earlier and giving it to someone else. It's what the game is. It's all about. Seriously, this is how I see Jordan Ayew, right? I have to just equate it to go back to school football. If he was playing in my team at school, our players would have kicked him. Wouldn't have to wait for the opposition. You don't pass the ball, you're gonna get hoofed by your own players, your teammates. You don't want to play as part of the team. Don't play. Honestly, don't. I really doesn't. It doesn't bother me whether he plays or not. He's one of the only Palace players and that sounds really horrible. And this is not just a one-game thing. Chelsea, listen, there is not a player out there. We've not got one player out there that could take any of those positions. And that includes Wilf, out of all them Chelsea players. Not a single player. If any of our players were good enough to play for Chelsea, right, they'd be playing for Chelsea. Right, he's not good enough for Chelsea. That's why they sold him. Seriously, we need to. Our goalkeeper, he's not better than their goalkeeper. Our right back, left back, 2 centre backs. Any of the midfielders, they've got like a champion. They've got almost like a World Cup side on the bench. We have no right to even think that we should beat them. We've got a puncher's chance at the absolute best. But the days of, our fast forwards coming up against a very slow John Terry are gone. They're gone. They're long gone. We need to get into the real world. And it showed. They're fitter than us. They're stronger than us. And worst part about it, he's one of the best midfielders in the world. He weren't even playing. Imagine if he'd have been playing. Could have been 6 or 7. Because he likes to shot every now and then, yeah?
Exactly. He would have completely shut us down. Ian, what do you... I saw you wanted to come in there. Jump in, mate. And then, if you wouldn't mind...
Sorry, hold on. Jel, can you go and move the box, please?
He hasn't been reading the comments, obviously. It did make me smile. Move your box. Your missus wants a cup of tea or something. Anyway, I just wanted to come in and say, Andy Bull, Andy, I didn't go yesterday, all right? I watched the game on a stream and I watched it back on Sky last night. I'm usually at every single Palace game, but I didn't go for family reasons yesterday. And I won't be going to Brentford at home and I won't be going to West Ham for the same reasons. My first game will be Tottenham at home. All right. So I accept that I didn't go to the game, and I'd be like to know your views. If you disagree with anything we're saying on the panel, if you were at the game, of course. You're saying Wardy and Jimmy Mack played well. Yeah, they might have just shaded it, but the point I was trying to make earlier was that none of our players were really on the top of their game yesterday. Even Wilf, we just didn't look like, even at 0-0. When Chelsea were attacking us at the beginning, they started on the front foot. They started stronger. They were hungrier than us. They wanted it more than us. And they had better players than us. And it was as simple as that. We couldn't handle it. We just could not handle it. And I said this pre-show to Ian. We were playing lots of pretty football out from the back, but we were playing it in their final third. We need to get the ball further up the pitch before we start playing football and getting balls into the box. And, we didn't get any crosses in yesterday, and the stats were slightly better in the second half. But You know, in the first half, we didn't even have a shot. You know, it was that poor. And that's the point I was trying to make earlier.
Tim, with Ayew, can you see? I mean, what do you think he needs to improve in order to justify his place in the team? And can you see Vieira being, unlike Hodgson, probably more ruthless in his decision making as to who starts week in, week out?
Yeah. Just before I do that, two things I do want to say is, firstly, much respect for Chelsea for that minute silence before the game started. I thought that was an excellent thing to do. Second thing, all the way down from New Zealand, the sound of the Palace fans was so impressive the whole game. They didn't stop, and that was really good to hear again. Regarding Ayew, okay, we're not allowed to swear, so let's be careful. I don't think, basically, unless we've got 11 players out, he should put a Palace shirt on again. Like Jel said, he's lived off a couple of goals and a good cross for at least 2 seasons. Each time I see him play, he looks like a headless chicken. He goes over at the slightest touch. He never seems to know what position he's in. And I don't know if he will change. I mean, he's been long enough in the game. He's been with us long enough. I don't think he ever will get it. I don't think he is a Premiership player. Sorry.
Yeah, someone put in the chat that he's a squad player, and I agree with that. I think, you know, we're talking about adding 2 or 3 more to the squad anyway. I think when you've got Alessi, you've got Eze back. You know, we've got flair players to come back into this side. Jordan Ayew doesn't get near the starting 11 when everyone's fit. And to be honest, he'll be lucky to make the bench. But, you know, I'm sort of pleased he's there now because he can sort of do a job just about. You know, I mean, if you didn't play him yesterday, who would you have played instead? I'm not sure. Maybe Ben Saki up front with Mateta might have been better. I don't know.
I see Tom's Tom, friend of the show and long-time contributor, saying that Ben Ayew's not a winger. That's exactly what he is. He's always been a winger. It's just that we've ended up playing him as an emergency forward. But even so, I agree. I think he's living on borrowed time. I think with Alesi, having seen him play, and Eze, they not only do they hold the ball a lot better, but they will travel with the ball a lot more effectively. And I think with Vieira's style of football, that's going to suit us because that's where I'm talking about. We have to be braver. I can forgive Ayew for dropping back and trying to help out simply because the ball is there and we need to win it back. What I cannot forgive him for is the amount of time he loses it. And it's not just a one-off thing. He's always done it. And as you say, and that probably, and you know, you're mentioning that he falls over left, right, and centre, Tim. That brings me to the next question: is that clearly we've seen a change in emphasis in refereeing and everything, and I know that certainly the pair of you had a view as to how it was being reffed yesterday. Tim, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, it was. I hate first game of the season. I'm already screaming at the referee. What does that mean? But it was so evident that whenever Chelsea had the ball, whenever they started moving forward, the ref had the whistle in his mouth, just waiting to blow at the slightest little touch for Chelsea. And yet, when he went the other way, how many times were one of our players bundled over from the back? Free kick given. So the ref, I mean, second half, I thought he was slightly less awful. But yeah, that first half, I was just shocked at how bad he was.
What about your thoughts, Ian, on the refereeing and this new emphasis moving forward? Do you think we'll be one of the teams that loses out?
No, I don't think so. I think it will even itself out for everyone. I think it's better. If I watched a lot of football this weekend on TV, and they were talking about it during the Spurs-Man City game this afternoon on Sky, how so much more was being let go, and the game was allowed to flow a lot more. I think as fans, we all want that. We don't want to see free kicks given for just little niggles. But it did feel yesterday that John Moss was giving Chelsea free kicks while he wasn't giving them to us. Whether that's just my red and blue tinted specs I wear all the time when I'm watching Palace or not. I don't know. But it did feel like, he might as well put that blue shirt on because he was giving Chelsea. He couldn't wait to give Chelsea that free kick. The free kick that Alonso scored from was very soft. He hardly touched him. If it's up the other end, I'm saying it's a free kick. So I'm not arguing about it. All I'm saying is it was soft, given the new rules, maybe. But I do think that over the course of the season, it will be better for us. We'll see less break up in play. And I think what will happen is that players will start to push the boundaries. They'll start to see what they can get away with, more fouls and see what happens there. I think certainly the other rule that's changed, isn't there, with the lines on the VAR, which I think is great, frankly, which we had in the Euros. A much better administration of VAR than we saw last 2 seasons in the Premier League. So that's got to be a good thing. They're talking about it will give us another 20 goals back in the Prem. That's 1 per team. So who knows? So,
Jel, what are your thoughts on the new emphasis and the refereeing of it from what you've seen across the weekend?
Just tinkering in it. It's just Boone is going to go, it was a foul, but it wasn't really a foul, so we won't give it. And then when Mason Mount gets the ball and one of our players just touches him and goes, it was a foul. Now I've got to give it to Chelsea. That's what it was doing yesterday. They kicked the crap out of us. I just won't say kick the crap. I mean, I'm talking forceful challenges. You can't challenge like you used to anymore. We saw that when Sacco got sent off, a couple of seasons ago in the first half for the challenge. Won the ball, followed through with it, done the player. Oh, you can't do that anymore. It's just and then of course, we're playing one of the best teams in Europe, if not the best team in Europe at the moment, and and we've got who I think is literally. I'm not just going to say because we lost, because I say this all the time about John Moss. I think he is quite clearly the worst referee in English football. There must be better referees that are A, fitter, B, won't be overawed to come from the lower leagues. He is dreadful, and I'm not going to say there's a directive to, like there used to be with Alex Ferguson's Man United. You know what I mean? Everyone knows that they were favoured, but I don't think it's that because there's so much. There's 17 cameras in the ground now; they see everything and everyone. So, but I mean, he looks out of his depth. That's what he looks to me. So I just said, so Laurie Scott just said, John Moss is one of the poorer referees in the Premiership. I'm surprised he passed the annual fitness medical. Seriously, I mean that is a great call because he's Chubbs. He really is. I don't get it. But this thing about, I honestly thought when who's a little fella that used to just get penalties against us all the time. When Hazard left Chelsea, I thought, okay, at least we got half a chance now. Now they've got a whole team of, if you go near them, the greatest thing about having no crowds, right, was hearing the players go down, whelping and screaming every single time. You didn't even have to kick them, you pushed them. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. Now we've got the crowds back, you're hardly going to hear it. It's just, yeah, he's much worse than Clatterberg, Joe Phillips. And, I mean, the only, allegedly, I'm going to say this, and Clattenburg I always thought was a cheat. He cheated the final, but he was blatant with it. So I don't really care.
And I know he's
Moss.
certainly been.
Moss is just shocking. It's just shocking.
Yeah, I mean,
this is the worst thing. Just quickly, this is again still something where they're trying to do the evolution of the game, right? With everything, with players, with coaches. Now you used to be a manager. Now you're a manager, and then you've got a coach, and you've got this, and you've got that, and it's 10 people doing what really one person used to do just 10 years ago, right? But why aren't referees accountable? But managers accountable. If the manager's crap, the team lose, get sacked. Why? I'm not being funny. Why aren't the PFA or whoever, the Premier League, why aren't they sacking poor referees? And just kind of honestly, you know this for a fact, right? Ian Lyons, in Sunday League football, in fact, in semi-pro football, you can take a referee out of the league, right? If he's a poor referee, you give him 8 out of 10. And if all the teams give him 8 out of 10, they'll get there and go, this referee's appalling. We don't want him in the league. Give him 8 out of 10. All of a sudden, the league, they look at him and go, he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. We'll put him in a different league. You get rid of referees. You know, this is a multi-billion bet, and we have literally pound shot referees.
I think the problem is that there's a dearth of referees. That's the problem. There's no one pushing them out. It's like, you know, having IU in the side because there's no one better than him at the minute that can take his place. And I think you'll always get that. And what I would like to see is I'd like to see more ex-players become referees, because more often than not, you know, whenever I've been played or whatever, the ones that have played the game know, and they're the one, and that they're able to explain their decisions and say, "Don't take the piss, mate. You know, that was clear. You were clearly falling over there. Get up, otherwise I'll book you." And I think moving forward, that's something that the FA and the Premier League and, you know, the system itself needs to seriously look at, incentivizing ex-pros to get back into it and do it. But moving forward now, currently, I've heard or I've seen that there is going to be an experiment where referees will start explaining their decisions. Now, whether that's in real time, they're going to be mic'd up or not, I don't know. What do you think of that, Tim?
I was just actually going to bring that up because that's one of the things they do down here in the rugby, is be it an international or Super Rugby or even provincial, all the refs are mic'd so that when they give their decisions, when they're talking to the television match official, you can hear exactly what they're saying, you know, exactly why they're giving the decisions they're giving. And it certainly seems a lot more people are understanding the game more. And, oh, right, that's why I don't agree, but that's why it was given. And I'd love to, during the football game, especially the game on Saturday, I would have loved to have heard the reasons that Moss was giving those free kicks. So, you know, from knowing what's going on, I think it would be a great idea.
Okay, right. So I think we're all agreed that we were beaten by the better team, and this is a start for us. And do we think that the onus of yesterday's game was more on the manager, or do we think it was more on the players, or do we think there was no blame and it's just something we need to chalk up and then look forward to next week's game? Ian, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think we can lay too much blame at anyone's door for yesterday. I know it's the same for everyone, but it's been a tough pre-season. It's not been like any other pre-season. Chelsea, we've already said, were better than us. So I think we just draw a line under it. I'm encouraged and not too disheartened by yesterday because of the players we've got to come back. You know, we've got lots of players to come in, people that are injured at the moment, people that have just signed for us that haven't really played. Yeah, I think Anderson is going to be fantastic at centre-back. So I think once he knows his proper side, next week's going to be important, no doubt about that, against Brentford. You'd like to think we'll get 3 points next Saturday. It's a kind of game you've got to target a win for sure. But I don't think we need to get too carried away if we've only got 3 or 4 or 5 points after 6 or 7 or 8 games. You know, I think we just need to be patient and just find our feet a little bit. Someone said earlier in the chat that we're a team in transition. You know, changing guard at the Palace, you know, whatever cliche you want to use. You know, Patrick Vieira, no questioning him as a player at all. He won the lot, but his record as a manager isn't great. I hope he can transfer his playing career as to be a good manager for us in the Premier League. So, you know, we'll just have to wait and see. But I don't think we can blame anyone for yesterday. Move on is what I say.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see Jimmy McArthur's comments afterwards saying in the changing room, there's not an acceptance there of just that they were better than us. we know we need to be better, and we need to make sure we put it right next week. And that's exactly what you want to hear, isn't it, from someone so integral in the side and on the pitch, and he gets it. And I think moving forward, and maybe we should do that now. Maybe we've done the game yesterday to death, I think. So moving forward, then, Jel, who do you expect that didn't start yesterday to start on Saturday?
Banks for a start.
Scotty Banks.
I mean, it just. Well, why not? I mean, he's been in the freeze for 2 years now. I mean, I'm not having that he's not experienced enough. No one's experienced enough until you get experience. I think that will give us an outlet. I would take IU out without a doubt, and I would just keep Wilf up. I've always said I just think he offers so much more up front now. He'll only have one player field that's come back to try and boss in with two, and I think that leaves the modern attacking midfields. It will leave them short. You stick him out on the wing, they just bring two defenders over because we don't attack like we used to. We just don't do that. So I think it would be a start. Also, I think probably Gallagher will come in now. Obviously, he can play because he's parent club, so he will be a huge. And I think what that could do is that it will release. It should push Riedewald back, and then Gallagher goes forward. Even if it's at the expense of my beloved MacArthur. It is what it is. I mean, you can't expect him to have a full season. I know he had a lot of time off last season, so he's well rested, but it is what it is. I'm a huge fan of Gallagher, having seen him before. He's experienced. He's got Premier League experience. So, it's. I think as things go on, it will just get better, and like you say, once we get Kouate out of defence and get a bit more pace and a proper centre back there with then I can see what Laurie's saying. He said Riedewald was poor yesterday. But listen, you're overrun by a team with a high press. Well, the thing what Chelsea did yesterday is what Liverpool were doing 3 years ago. You know what I mean? The high press. But the thing is, whereas Liverpool never had they've had one world-class defender, and that's all. Chelsea have got the whole kit. So you don't matter. They can press 6 players going forward compact it into one area. And they can still leave themselves at 4 absolute worldies to cope with any breakaway from us. And the only threat really was going to be Wilf. And if Wilf's not continuously in the game and on his game, then he's just going to be a fits and starts. That's the thing. When Wilf's on his game, he's unplayable. But Mukhtar, I don't think MacArthur is past it. He just, like I say, I just think we can't really gauge this team. The team against an absolute team of worldies. They were fantastic sides yesterday. I didn't expect anything, despite me putting that we would win 2-1 in the predictions league. I must have been the only idiot that did that. But yeah, it's. I think things will be different against everyone else. But Chelsea, they're just a class above for me, and that's why, like I say, they're winning things. And it really wouldn't surprise me if we've seen. I mean, they've got Lukaku coming in. Holy moly! You know what I mean? It's like he scored those goals in Premier League.
Yeah, he's definitely
the only thing I will say. I've had to spend the whole day with a Chelsea fan. He picked me up this morning. I think it was part of his ploy. He picked me up, tracked me in his car for 2 hours down to Salisbury. But he said, I deliberately didn't mention the football. He said, because I didn't have to. What was that?
Ouch. Tim.
Yes.
Tim, who do you think? What changes do you think will be made? And more importantly, I mean, I'm seeing all these names coming up, and it's very easy for us to say this person should be playing, this person should be playing. But who would they be playing for? I mean, because not everyone had a bad game yesterday. So if we're going to be bringing other players in, who would we swap them for?
Just before I say that, the one thing I do think Vieira's already proven he's better than Roy. His first game, he brings on one of the academy players in the second half to get experience. I mean, that's straight away what we've been asking for years. So he did that. Yeah, I mean, Benteke I would have to bring on. I'd have to start him. Can't believe I'm saying that. But I'd have to start him next week. Gallagher in the middle, like you said. The rest of them, I still think Ward, I think Mitchell did it as well as he could. The new centre-back that I can't remember the name that came from Chelsea, I thought he did well. He should start again. But I'm not sure whether I'd start Anderson or have Coyote back in the central defence again. I don't know Anderson's injury or if it's just he's not, he's tired. I don't know.
It's interesting because I've been seeing it going up, and we've got loads of people in. So thank you for everyone that's joined. Sorry we haven't given many name checks out today, but I noticed a lot of people have suggested giving Gaeta a rest, getting Butland in. What would you say to that, Ian?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think if you analyse the goals we conceded yesterday, Vicente Gaeta was at fault. Certainly for the free kick, the second goal definitely, and arguably the third goal as well. He's beaten from a long distance, bit of a daisy cutter. So I think that you don't drop a goalkeeper on the back of one game, and if they didn't score those 3 goals, they would have, had it been 0-0 after an hour, Chelsea would have upped their game even more and still beaten us 2 or 3 in the final 20 minutes or something. So I don't think you can drop a goalkeeper on the back of one game. So I'd keep Gaeta in goal. The changes I would make next week are I'll bring Gallagher in to start Fryu. I'll bring Benteke in to start for Mateta. I'll bring Anderson in to start for Coyote.
That's exactly the three changes.
I mean, and people have been saying this in the chat as well. So I think it's these are popular opinions. I think it's too early to start JRS Raksaki. I think it's too early to start Scott Banks. I like Scott Banks, Jill. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a great young talent. I think he's going to be really good for us, and I'd certainly put him on the bench. I think it was the Charlton game. I tweeted that Scott Banks was the best of the bunch, and I got slaughtered. People give me a hard time, but I think Scott Banks has got a great future with us. But I just think it's a bit too early yet. It's a massive game next Saturday. Let's be really clear about this. Brentford will come full of confidence, having beaten Arsenal. And someone also said in the chat earlier, Brentford will give us a high press, the same as Chelsea did. You watch their game; they run their socks off, press, and it's going to be a really tough game. I still think we'll win, but I always think we'll win against teams like that. But we need to make those changes that I've suggested there, and I think if we do, I think we'll beat them.
I agree. I think I'm coming to you in a minute, Joe. I agree. I think we cannot overlook Brentford. Arsenal were woeful. Let's be honest there. They were appalling, Arsenal, and they just got beat by the long ball. We won't be quite as susceptible to the long ball if they choose to adopt it against us. And I think we will pose more of a threat to them than Arsenal did. But I completely agree. I think in Franks, you've got a very switched on manager. And the whole ethos and of that club, Moneyball and data and everything else, they will not be underprepared one little bit when we play them. Joe, you had your hand up. You wanted to say something on what Ian was saying earlier about Banksy, probably.
Yeah, no, there's a few things. Only because she mentioned it. She name checked herself. Kathy Thompson's watching. I don't know who Kathy Thompson, but welcome, Kathy. There's a lot of talk about Yak, and I've said this for the last couple of years. Working on sites like I do, I meet a lot of Poles, and when they find out, that that I'm not allegedly a Walsall fan and a Palace fan, they would get the ump with me and say, you ruined Yak's career. He came to Palace, get Premier League experience, and he didn't even make it a World Cup side, and he was our best centre-back. You've ruined his career, and literally that gave him that back. We've literally lost a lot of Eastern European support purely because of Roy Hodgson didn't believe in Yak. And I can assure you there are a lot of people who think that he is a very good player. I've not seen enough of him. But listen, you can't just have, a lot of people just not have rose-tinted glasses because they're Polish. They had high hopes for this guy. This would have been like, like one of our promising players, and then going to a club thinking he's going to get the chance, and then they just bin him off. I mean, and then I think Daniel Garlick earlier just said, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I don't know. Has he gone out? Is he out on loan? Is he good? I know he went out on loan at the end of the season. Is he gone out for a season and a bit loan, or is he back?
No, he came back, didn't he? But I don't know whether he's gone back out.
Okay.
But, I'd agree with you. I wouldn't necessarily.
Christopher Gunn said he's awful.
Well, I know. This is what makes me laugh: is that people are making.
How can you say he's awful?
But exactly.
I saw him against Charlton. He was awful, mate. He was terrible. He gifted their equaliser.
You can't expect a player to come in and then be mustard straight from the start. This is what makes me laugh. Not just our fan base; it's all fan bases. He's certainly not going to win the Ballon d'Or, Ali, as you suggested. But if the amount of players that we've got in our squad that people think are rubbish on the basis of that they've seen them for half a game or coming on as a sub with 6 minutes to go or whatever is the case, then there's something seriously wrong with our recruitment. Not everyone is a duffer. Even Sorloth, I thought, was a good player. But we just did not give him the service at the time. So it's interesting, isn't it?
Do you know what's great about this game, guys? Do you know what
Santander in Reading?
Do you know what's great about this? It's all about opinions, isn't it? And there's no right or wrong answers here. It's all very subjective. And you might say something, Jel or Ian or Tim, and I'll disagree with you, but that doesn't make you right and me wrong, And there are some times when people think a player's good that they're clearly rubbish. But what we don't see is we don't see the amount of effort that goes into signing these players. Surely they look at them, they analyse them, and all the rest of it before they get them across the line. There's got to be something about them, isn't there?
Yeah, that was a poor joke, Laurie Scott. If only we had
Graham Daniels said Hodgson didn't rate him.
Go on, Joe.
Graham Daniels said Hodgson didn't rate him and PV Clinton. So he obviously knows Patrick Vieira, Graham Daniels, because he must have told him because he doesn't rate him. But also Hodgson didn't rate Andros Townsend, but the year before he was our player of the year. And then obviously something happened in pre-season. He probably upset Roy, and then Roy just dropped him, and that was it. And he ruined him, and now he's gone. And he's the only person really, except in the last 5 years, that's crossed from the right hand side. Because Yannick never crossed anything from the right hand side, did he? Just went mental. But he's about as well, which is very strange. Spends more time with us. I don't know if he's without a club, whether he's been released from Everton. But yeah, I mean, but Yaki's rubbish apparently. Peter said, but obviously, Peter's played with him because he must know that. But yeah, I think Yak would do a good job at a League One club. Christopher Gunn. Well, if he ain't good enough, he ain't good enough. So you have to be more committed at a League One club than you do in a Premier League. But yeah, I think we can only get better. And the other thing is as well, not only have we got players coming in because of parent clubs and stuff like that, we've also going to have players coming back in when they're fit. It was nice to see Eze. He actually walking without pain. I think so. He's on the he's way
ahead of schedule,
hopefully quickly. Yeah, I think Elise, hopefully, I heard a great stat the other day about shoulder injuries, about players really suffering after they've had one shoulder injury. They're really worried about going in case it goes again. It was like Owen, wasn't it? Michael Owen. He was so quick, but if he just tried to just run that little bit faster than just running fast, he always pulled his hamstring. Done it in the World Cup, against Sweden. He done it in important times. So I don't see. So Joan Wells has said, when have we got to announce our squad? That's a good question. Is it by the end of the month?
It's after the transfer window, isn't it?
When does the window shut? And when does that shut?
End of the month.
Yeah, so that's what I thought. Yeah.
And a lot of the youngsters don't need to be named, do they? Because they're under 21 or something.
23, yeah, they're under 23. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Listen, we've just this has really gone really quickly today, and we've already hit the hour, so we'll probably just wrap this up now in 5 minutes. One last thing I wanted to cover, just a brief answer from the three of you, if you wouldn't mind. Tim, Vieira needs time more than FDB if things don't go well in the first 5 weeks.
Absolutely. Simply from the point of view that he's actually been given the investment that Frank de Boer wasn't. But yeah, it's new players, it's a new manager. We've got to give them at least 8 games before anyone starts. Oh, this is wrong, that's wrong. Give them time. Give the players time.
Well, what are your thoughts on that, Ian? Do you think that's enough, or do you think you'd need longer?
It needs longer than that. If we lost our first 8 games, would he get sacked? Maybe, but I think we need to give him longer. I don't think we will, by the way. It feels very different to Frank de Boer 4 years ago. Frank de Boer came in, wanted to change everything, didn't he? And we've kept a certain stability, and there's some consistency about some of the staff. Sean Derry getting promoted to in the first team squad, as a coach, and you're keeping some of these players that are part of SE25 DNA, really. That was the problem with Nuno, wasn't it? When we were looking at him, he wanted to bring everyone in lock, stock and barrel, and we didn't want that. So I think it's a good thing, and yet he's also brought his own people in as well. The Welsh guy, I think that's very positive. So I think we'll give him time. If we're bottom at Christmas, I think he'll get sacked, but I don't think we will be. And I think he will be given longer. And I think the club will show faith in him during this transitionary time.
Jel, what are your thoughts on Vieira and how much time we will need to? Well, no, people should give him as opposed to what they will.
See, the thing is we need to start on a buck this trend of, if you don't win, let's just say we don't win our first 8 games and we are bottom, but we're still building. We're building a side. Like I said, my prediction is 8th or 18th. It's as simple as that. I think we either gel really quickly and our players we get relatively injury free. Wilf needs to play well. Everyone needs to play really well. I think if we can do that and play really well, I think we do okay. If not, if we have injuries and certain players don't perform, then I think that will be our tenure done for the Premier League. But the thing is, as bizarre as it sounds, I think I honestly believe this could be the first time that a manager could take a team down and not get sacked. I mean, if we're going to go down, how are we going down?
Mate, we're not going down. Forget your 18th. It's 8th, right? Remember last week?
But that's what I'm saying. It's. But I honestly think I don't think we'll go down. But what I'm saying is if we did, I still think we need to. Sooner or later, someone needs to just go. Otherwise, it's the merry-go-round, isn't it? I mean, I just see, someone joking about. It'll be Allardyce by Christmas.
Yeah, I saw that.
I just, for me, it's I really, no matter what happens, I want him to stay. He's massive influence with young players. Not just because he's been there, seen it, done it, but I literally think that he can. He was successful at City, and I know they'll have had the best young players as well. But I still think with a bit more money, his experience and his you know, the way he can impart his experience and the pressure. I just want to go back to one thing really, really quickly before you two guys wrap it all up. We're saying about ex-players being referees. Let's just say Patrick Vieira. I mean, you want to see him when he refs our games. You know what I mean? He's a fantastic referee. Patrick Vieira couldn't referee an Arsenal game because it wouldn't be impartial. He couldn't referee a Tottenham game because he hates them. He couldn't referee a Man United game because he hates them. You can't. There's none of that. You can't take that right. You could Gary Neville. Imagine him. Oh, yeah, that's all right. We'll have him Man City against Liverpool. Jesus, it'd be red. It'd be red. You know, you can't do that. Most ex-players don't. Maybe ex-players from down the lower leagues, but then you'd have to suss them out and find out who was the Premier League that couldn't referee a Liverpool game because they found out like 3 years into his career that he was a Liverpool fan. They didn't even know because no one had asked him. Now they're almost like, oh, who did you support when you was a kid? Yeah, well, Tranmere. Okay, well, you can never have a Tranmere game then. You know what I mean? Or the team that Tranmere hate. You can never be impartial. I don't care what people say. You can never be impartial. This doesn't work. The human being, the tribal instinct in most human beings does not work. So I don't think you could ever. And the thing is, you couldn't come in really being impartial as a referee because you need to like football. And if you like football, you like one team or many teams. So for me, it's a very strange situation. But anyway, sorry, fellas.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you. For my 2 pennies, I'd agree with what Fergus has just commented on and was up on the screen just a minute ago. Is that Vieira's already bought into the club's values and the DNA, and I think it's here for the long term, regardless of whether we were to go down or not. Completely agree with you, Joel. I think this is a change in ethos, a change in direction, and they're not going to throw the bathwater out with a baby after 6 months or a bad start or whatever. You know, people have been quoting Norwich and the fact that they kept their manager and they keep coming back up. You know, I don't think we're going to be quite as bad as they are, but nevertheless, you know, I'd like to think there will be that loyalty because ultimately that's what our club's about, isn't it? You know, the fans are loyal and, you know, it'd be nice to give someone a chance. We've all been calling for it. The vast majority of us have been calling for it. The last thing, you know, we should be is hypocritical about it when, you know, after the hard start we're not picking up points. Let's stick with it. Let's get behind them. Fans back in the ground. You know, and that we'll see a difference. We'll see a difference anyway. Right.
Martin Blockheed, they ain't.
Yeah. Right. All right. Okay. We'll leave that for next week. I'll wrap it up there because we're running over time. As always, big thank you to everyone that's been watching and contributing. Again, sorry that we didn't get too many shout outs early doors. Big thank you to Tom Samuel, who does a lot of our social media. Nigel, who does a lot of work behind the scenes, getting the stats together and everything else, and the question crew, and obviously Lucy, who, as you will not see, is producing tonight's show as well. Nick will be back next week. So until then, enjoy your week, and we'll catch up with you on Sunday.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Cheerio.